Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SLO City Together Podcast.
Just like that, we're rolling.
Just like that. It's a quick start. You just jump into these things, you know? You can't overthink it.
That's right. I want to welcome our very special guest,
Mr.
Jim Hay.
Jim Hay.
Thank you.
A round of applause. And may we say, though we are often not serious on the podcast, may we say thank you for your service. This is a Memorial Day adjacent episode.
Thank you.
So excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Be able to talk with you a little
Jim.
bit.
Any first thoughts you have just about being here?
Not really.
Okay.
Just, I've thought about it in the past, but yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
You are a longtime listener of the podcast.
Every episode.
Have you listened to every episode?
Every episode.
Wow. So you've heard all of Jordan's
ramblings.
misspeak.
Is there anything you've always wanted to interject on the podcast?
Yeah.
Anything you find yourself shouting at the at your phone as we are?
The proper way of saying Chinook. I know. He sent me a text about that afterwards.
That's funny.
It's a Chinook.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's Chinook, yeah.
Oh,
so it should be spelled SCH.
But it's not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So whose fault is that?
I think it's the Chinook people's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite episode or a favorite moment from the podcast that you've listened that stands out or comes to mind?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, but I've laughed through many of them.
That's good.
Been very entertaining. I enjoyed them all.
Awesome. Jim, give us a little 30-second bio of Jim Hay.
Oh.
Where are you from originally?
From Southern California.
Okay. Grew up in?
West Covina.
West Covina.
Oh, nice.
Born and raised?
From
the playground.
I was going to say.
Southern
That's
California.
West Philadelphia.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the San Luis Obispo area?
5 years.
5 years. Awesome.
By way of Reading, correct?
By way of Reading, yes.
For a long time.
For 40 years, yeah.
Yeah.
40 years.
Wow. Yeah.
That's longer than I thought.
Yeah.
How would you classify your career vocational work?
I was thinking the other way. I don't know the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
I may know it, but I don't remember it.
Mystery man. CIA.
I spent 27 years with State Compensation Insurance Fund. It's a workers' comp carrier that we work with our policyholders to try and help maintain a safe workplace.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
How would you rate our workplace? As safe?
In terms of safety.
I would say it,
Thank you,
except
Jim.
for, the building has its pitfalls, yes.
Yeah, quite literally.
Pitfalls.
There are pits to fall in all around this property.
Literally, yes.
I did see a guy come out and put up a cone and some caution
That's
tape the
helpful,
other day.
yeah.
So thank you for not filling the pit to fall in, but just putting
Just
some
a
rope
cone.
around it.
Yeah.
A cone.
Orange catches your eye, and you'll know.
Maybe he works for your company, the former company.
I doubt that.
Okay.
Was that a fulfilling
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Like I say, I was a loss control consultant and worked directly with policyholders. And then the last 7 years, I worked with training our people to do a better job with working with the policyholders as far as safety is concerned.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So Southern California, born and raised.
Yes.
And
On the playgrounds is where I
on the
spent
playground,
most of my days.
where he spent most of his days.
Met a couple of guys. They were up to no good.
Jim just
Started making trouble in the neighborhood. Jim got in one little fight, and his
Plug
mom
your
got
ears.
scared and said,
Yeah.
"We're moving up to Reading."
That was a good dismount. That was a great dismount.
So growing up in Southern California, and then eventually, obviously, joined the military. What was that experience like? Was that a decision? Were you drafted? What did that look like?
It was a decision because I felt like I was going to be drafted very soon.
Wow.
And when you get drafted, you don't have much of a choice.
They send you where they want you.
Yeah, and yes. So I wanted some choice.
Yeah.
So I went down to the to Army and signed up for 3 years. They gave me a battery of tests, and I did well enough. They said, "No, okay. Well, basically, you can do whatever get whatever training you want."
Yeah.
Oh.
And I said, "Okay, what's the longest course you have?"
That keeps me out here.
This is a run out the clock operation.
Yeah.
That's right.
Didn't you say it was like 10 months?
It was, they had an 8-month training program.
Okay.
And air defense radar repair. And so I thought, okay, well, let's see, a couple months of basic, 8 months of that. There's a year right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and how long was the commitment?
Or 3.
3 years?
It was 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I signed up for that, did my basic at Fort Ord near Monterey, California. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, and was there for 8 months. I went through my training, and then they kept me on as an instructor in the course that I graduated from. And so I taught back there for a year, was coming up on just a year to go, and I got my orders for Vietnam. So, yeah.
I actually kind of want to go back real quick and talk about like the idea of being drafted into the military is such an interesting thing. And well, I don't know, like what were the emotions or what was going through your mind when you thought like, okay, it's inevitable that I will be a part of this in some sense.
So I'd rather choose it rather than being.
Yeah, no, I want a choice. When we were actually, when I went into the service, I went down to the induction center in Los Angeles, and they lined us all up. They said, okay, you folks that are enlisted on one side of the room, all you draftees are on the other side of the room. And then they said, okay, I want all the draftees to number off. And everybody numbered off, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they said, okay, all the odd are Army, all the even are Marines.
Really?
Wow.
And that's how it came about.
Wow. So you're
interesting. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah. So for you though, in that time of like hearing about the draft and all that stuff, and your family, we got to go to Washington D.C. together on this honor flight. Jim pulled me along and took care of me on the whole trip.
Jim was your chaperone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was. But I got to, you shared a little bit about your mom, like telling your mom, okay, this is what's happening. Yeah. What was like the emotional toll that took on you, on her, on your family? Or was it just kind of like numb? Was it cold? Was it sad? Was it?
Well, I was the first one in my family to be in the military.
Really?
My dad had some physical thing I can't remember. Plus, he worked for a defense contractor, and same with a couple of uncles. So my family never experienced being in the military at all. Wow. And I remember when I was back in New Jersey, got my orders for Vietnam. I called home and told my parents. And my dad says, well, just tell me you don't want to go.
That's simple.
Yeah. Is that how that works?
Dad,
have you tried? Tell me.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way.
Dad, could you call somebody?
Yeah. What if you tell him?
I would guess that was kind of uncommon at that time with World War I, World War II, all the, like for somebody to not have family, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty uncommon.
And even Korea before that.
Yeah. When you
to be the first one in your family in that era was probably kind of an outlier.
Yeah.
And then when I did actually come home from New Jersey, prior to going overseas, I met with my family and everything, and I could sense that my mom was essentially saying goodbye to me for the last time.
Yeah.
Wow. And that she felt like she was never going to see me again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over with an attitude that I'm going to come back one way or the other in one piece. I wasn't a believer at the time, but I just felt, in my head, in my mind, that I was coming back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
No.
Go for it.
So it's twofold. First part is silly. Second part is not. Basic training. The three of us who'd be the first to be honorably or dishonorably discharged from basic training. We'll let you answer that.
All right.
We're
going to rank it 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So who's most likely to finish basic training of this group?
Well, you can't put Jim on the spot like that.
We won't be offended. Our feelings won't be hurt. We promise.
Not being informed to the highest degree of accuracy, I hesitate to articulate for fear that I may deviate from the true course rectitude. In short, I am very dumb and do not know.
Yes.
I think Luke would go first.
I knew you were going to say
I don't think he
that.
would even make it.
To basic training?
Yeah. I think they'd be worried about him when they saw him in the office.
What do you mean?
I'm not going to say.
Articulate.
In public.
It's okay. No.
I think
be offended.
Your skin needs to be a little tanner. I think they might think
What?
Well, he's pretty pasty. He's not going to be okay.
Oh my god.
We can't send him.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Pastiness would do me.
He's kidding.
Pasty.
I would be clearly the first one to be out because I could not run the distance. So my real question was how hard and intense was basic training, and do you remember that like first night going to sleep, like you've gone to basic and like, wow, I am not at home.
Yeah. This is real.
This is happening.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Wow. Well, like I say, it was in Monterey, and they at that time they had meningitis concerns, and so we
in general,
it's everywhere.
everywhere. It was
yeah. This was
kind of like hot tub.
This was 1968.
Okay,
and so we had to, and we were in a 3-story building, and they had to have every other window open, and you could only have one blanket. And here we are right on the coast, and so it was very cold.
Yeah, I bet that's freezing.
Cold
just
nights.
probably added to the
Yeah.
homesick feeling.
That would do me in right there. That's what would get me. Just the cold, sleepless nights. I would be done.
You didn't have a choice, though.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice. That's what's crazy. Yeah, you just got through it.
And was it extremely difficult, physically demanding? More or less than you thought?
For me it was. I wasn't, what you'd call an athlete or anything like that. So it was physically demanding for me. But I 8 weeks later, I felt like I was in the best shape I'd ever been in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
8 weeks. And how did you get? I remember. So my cousin was in the Marines, and at least my memory was like him and a few other guys got in a car to drive to basic training. Like I remember wishing them off. Did your family go to like
Take a
see
bus?
you off, or did you just?
No, we went to. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Now you're really taxing me. I remember that we boarded a bus someplace. I think actually in L.A. and they bused us all the way up to Monterey, and it was. They brought us in at night, so you're in the unknown, and I remember they gave us, the Red Cross gave us this little bag before we got on the bus, and it had just, toothbrush and all that kind of stuff and basics, and but there was Scope mouthwash in there, and we had guys just downing this Scope just to get drunk.
Oh, really?
I mean, there's very little alcohol in it, but they were just,
drinking Scope.
Yeah,
it's that bad.
Drinking down Scope. That was that bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
I could never imagine.
Yeah.
Really burn.
Yeah, that would be a burn.
Yeah.
That would be like great oral hygiene, though. On the flip side,
I don't know.
your breath is perpetual good breath from within.
Your gum health is just. I know we're making light, Jim, but that's
it's unbelievable to
think.
I think that's where my mind always goes, not as to the physical thing that would have necessarily made me not able to do it, but like that first night, because even if I travel somewhere away from family, it's that first night where you're like, oh, I'm in somewhere unfamiliar, and like to add all of the layers of like potential future terror, like what's going to happen, where's this road going to lead? I just can't even imagine that.
Yeah, they played the drill sergeants. They played with your head a lot during those 8 weeks. They really did. I told Brent about one. We were probably 5 or 6 weeks into the training, and they gathered us all together after chow, and very serious. They came. The company commander stood up there and he says, "Well, gentlemen, there's been. I know you haven't heard about this on the news because we didn't get any news there, but the war has escalated and we are leaving tomorrow for Vietnam as a unit, so we'll give you an opportunity to write your letters to your family." And I mean, they were just, it was a mind trip, I'll tell you. And
because you were absolutely certain they were being honest.
Oh yeah, they were dead serious.
Yeah,
and it was pretty crazy. And they let this go on for probably about half an hour or so, and then finally said, "No, we're just, we're playing with your head."
Wow.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Jim.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit, so Jim and I we flew together on a plane. Do you want to talk about on our flight a little bit?
Yeah,
Like
the,
what it is and what it was, and
amazing. Just these group of people, they just showered the veterans with just everything. I mean, they went out of their way. Even when we left, we had people or police officers there that were saluting us as we boarded the plane. Then they had a water cannon that hit the plane as we're...
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know what a water cannon is?
No.
Like
From a fire truck?
From a fire truck, yeah. So they hit a water cannon onto the plane as we're taxiing out.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Okay. I think somebody's trying to
But again, it was just, I mean, every step of the way, they just...
Felt intentional and cared for.
Yeah, really, very intentional. Taking care of our every need. Each of us had our guardian, and Brent was mine.
I was.
Yeah.
Yes, and you did a very good job.
Thanks, Jim.
That's good.
I was super humbled and honored to be asked to go, and had a good time.
Yeah,
Had a good time. Emotional time. It was like powerful. It was a powerful trip. I think like for me and our generation, there was war, but it wasn't as, I don't know. I think culturally jarring, I would say, as Vietnam and that season of life. There was a lot of civil unrest at home, a lot of upheaval, a lot of change, and then those guys who went to Vietnam, and there were four veterans from the Korean War. Just like I think a lot got forgotten and overlooked, and I think some of their experience. I think I got to see some of that and feel some of that as somebody who has not served in the military and who has not, really been a part of. I mean, there's been war, which has been crazy.
Yeah.
It's just it isn't. Yeah. So to go to all the monuments and to go to all those things with those guys and girls was really powerful. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Luke.
Yeah, is there like, and you may have mentioned this, is there like a highlight from that trip, like a particular moment that was like, wow, this is really special to recognize where you're at, or something you learned, or I don't know?
Well, coming to the Vietnam Wall, Memorial Wall, when I lived in Reading, they had a traveling wall that came through probably a couple times in that 40 years that I was up there. But to actually be at the physical wall, which looked much different than the traveling one, was very moving. It was.
Yeah. What is the wall?
It's a wall where all the names of all that died in the Vietnam War are etched on this wall.
Okay.
What I didn't realize, because the traveling wall was not like it at all, but where at one end it was probably only 3 feet tall, maybe at each end, and then as it worked to the center, it was probably 8 feet, 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Where the traveling one was just one side or one height, the entire thing.
It's kind of etched into the ground, and so the person who designed it was an 8th grade student.
No. She was a college student.
College student? I thought it was an 8th grade student.
No. She was a college.
I'm going to challenge you on that. I was convinced it was 8th grade.
Well, you go and look it up.
We'll do our research here.
Yeah.
No, she was a college. I think I want to say Yale or something. But the interesting thing, they did blind submission of design, so they didn't know who was submitting, male or female or age or anything else. And as the story goes, that they told us. She won out, and her professor also submitted and did not
win.
And I think gave her
a B or something.
A B on it.
Yeah,
and yet she was the one that won the design.
Crazy.
So this is a practical question.
Yeah.
Are those names organized alphabetically?
But they're organized by in the I think the order in which they died as well.
Right.
The day in which they died.
Yes, the
Wow.
date
day.
that they died. And then on that day, then they're in alphabetical
Then they're
order.
Wow.
So
Yeah, and so the center, there was a center divider, and I can't remember the breakdown of the years, but one to the left was one set of years, and then to the right was the other set of years.
Yeah. It was a powerful day. We walked a lot that day. It was pouring down rain in D.C.
Wow.
I think Jim and I walked 6 miles.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
learned
In the
that
rain.
Jim has way more energy than I do.
Yeah. Jim's a spry
Yeah.
fella.
Yeah. Pretty cool to see all those things. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
I did some research about the
Eighth
wall.
grade. Eighth grade.
No,
Told
Maya
ya.
Lin was the designer and a senior at Yale University.
He was so right.
eighth
Yeah.
grader.
Fact check.
She was at one point an eighth grader.
She was.
This is
See?
true. Yeah, this is true.
When she dreamed up the design, she was
yeah,
in eighth
perhaps.
grade.
Perhaps
we
it was
don't know.
based on an eighth grade
I
sketch.
don't know
that she
why I
did.
thought that. I must have heard something.
Maybe there was something else with eighth
There
grade.
must have been.
Yeah. But it's a V-shaped wall inscribed with the names of the approximately 58,000 men and women who were killed or missing in action during the Vietnam War.
It's jarring to go there and to see that with, I think we have a picture that we can throw up if you want.
Yeah.
Boop. And here's one of Jim. Boop. Here's one of me. Boop.
Just
here's
randomly.
And here's one of me and Luke photoshopped into the picture.
If you do that, I'll do it. I'm not photoshopping that.
But I think it was really powerful.
I have no idea what you're booping up.
Yeah, it was just jarring.
we.
It was jarring to recognize like how many people lost people. I mean, 58,000 people died in
Yeah.
Vietnam. To walk over together to the Korean War, which was 3 years, which they call the Forgotten War. Often 40,000 people died, and that's just Americans. And so it's just to recognize the amount of loss, pain, trauma. Even talking to Jim about some of his stories while in Vietnam of, living in those huts and navigating sirens and all those things. And you lost a friend who was actually lost to friendly, what would you call it, a frag?
Friendly fire, yeah. It was. He was what they termed as fragged. He was in a.
This was Ralph, right? Ralph?
Yeah, Ralph Bartley. He was what they call an NCO, and he and the other NCOs slept in a barracks or a hooch further down from us, and the rest of us lived in 8-man hooches. And so one evening, all of a sudden we heard this explosion. And what happened was somebody in our own unit threw a fragmentation grenade on top of the roof of this building, and this individual was killed. Yeah, and so it was a term that unfortunately was common over there, where you would frag somebody just in. Because you were unhappy with him, whatever it might be.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
So you were on the ground, and we got to. I think there's a picture of you with Ralph's name.
Yeah, I sent it to Luke. I don't know if he.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then, what was I going to say? Yeah. So. You experienced that there on the ground in Vietnam. You were on the ground in Vietnam for how long?
10 months and 23 days.
Yeah, 10 months and 23 days.
Yeah.
When you came out and you came back to the United States, what was that like? Like the reintegration into life? Was like the military or the Army supplying like counseling, trauma care, or was it just like, okay, thank you,
I don't recall the time of them offering anything. Of course, I guess if I had experienced, some, trauma, I might have been able to, get some help. But because I didn't come home, with something like that, and I don't know that PSD was a real popular term, or a much used term back then. Yeah. No, reception, very quickly you realize that you didn't want to wear your uniform out at all.
Yeah.
and or even claim that you were coming back from Vietnam,
Right.
because it was not a welcome home thing. So, yeah.
When you came home, were you close enough to the end of your 3 years that was the end of your service, or then were you back?
No, I actually had. They processed me out at Fort Lewis, Washington, and I had like 37 days, I think, left, and they just said, go on home and
Really?
serve out. I mean, if we need you, we'll contact you. But yeah, basically, I just like I say, I had 37 days left, so I just went home. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that lived life that you experienced, and that so many others experienced.
Yeah.
And it's just so foreign to, I think, the generation growing up today. In some ways, I mean, there's a lot of service members who are stepping in, and but to, I think, the general majority, like there's not even like a language or like a feeling you could. It's just really unique, and I think I appreciated the opportunity to see it and be a part of it, and experience it with you.
I have a question to ask.
Sure.
Please ask it.
So at that point, you were not a believer.
No.
Do you have any memories of people who were, or moments where faith was present while you were in Vietnam? Anything that sticks out to you in that regard now that you are a believer looking back?
Well, as I share this with Brent, I had some friends that were believers that prior to me going over, and so they gave me a paperback version of Good News for Modern Man.
Okay.
So I carried it with me the whole time because our fatigue pants had big pockets on the legs, and so I just carried it in my leg pocket the entire time, and I just made it like my security blanket. And if ever I went out on a contact mission and didn't have it with me, I'd kind of panic and want to get back right away to put it back in my pocket. And on the trip over, I tested the Lord some, put some fleece before him, and he came through every time. And even sometimes over there. And then when I got home, I didn't literally throw the Bible away, but I put it aside and basically said, thanks, Lord, for getting me home, and I don't need you anymore.
Yeah. When did that come full circle? When did he come back to?
Well, I came back in 71, and I became a believer on July 7th, 1977. Wow. So it was 6 years later.
And do you have memory? Were there military chaplains on the ground with you? Do you have any? I've always been curious about that. Must have been hard.
I don't recall, to be honest with you. We didn't have what I want to say, a meeting place,
right.
So to speak, on the base we were on. So I seem to remember that they did, on Sundays would offer, if somebody wanted to go to church or, and I think I might have gone once now that I think about it. That's over 50 years ago.
Right.
It's hard to remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look back and, regret that I didn't, call on the Lord, more that often. I mean, I called on him when I felt I needed him, and then when I didn't, I just put him aside.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've always got more questions, but I'll leave some space.
Well, I think we're coming close to the end. I remember after last week, we watched, the KSBY kind of report of the honor flight, and got to see you and Brent coming home. That was in Santa Maria, right?
You're on the news.
The airport. Yeah, you were.
12 seconds in, there we were.
There you go. But one powerful thing, and I can't remember if we talked about this already, but was hearing somebody was sharing about the difference in reception, as you were kind of saying, between coming home from the war of, I feel like I had to hide what I was what I was associated with and coming from, to then coming home from this honor flight and just a completely different experience. What was that like for you to experience and receive that reception and welcome back from the honor flight?
It was, again, very humbling. I kind of expected that we might see some people out front, but I had no idea that we would have so many. I was just blown away. And many people from our church were there for me, and I appreciate that. I mean, here on a weeknight at 9:30, in Santa Maria. Yeah. But it was very, very heartwarming. Quite a difference.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
Any fun memories from the trip that you're like, I'll never forget this?
I don't know if I can share it.
What? Wow.
Well, okay. You told me that Jordan's a real rule breaker.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Live right on the edge.
Jim and I were like, I think we were the young, spry
troublemakers.
We were like, we don't need to do, and so we just did we carved our own path. We went to the Martin Luther King Memorial. We went to the FDR Memorial, and everybody else was sitting on the bus waiting for us, but they didn't tell us to get back until 5:30. And we got back at 5, and everybody's like, "Where you been?" We're like,
"That would have killed me.
We're supposed to leave at 5:30."
So much time.
So there was a meal that that Brent and I had to do.
Oh yeah. You want me to tell it?
Sure.
So we went last night. I think we were there. They buy out this restaurant, and everybody is kind of like, go and find your own seats. And it's usually, Jim found a table of just 2, but the light was flickering, and me with my light issues, I was like, Jim, I gotta move. So we go to a 4-seat table. There's 2 plates on each side of the table, and
the salads are already placed.
And the salads are already there. Everybody's coming in, and we're kind of talked out. Like we're kind of not with it. We kind of wanted to like hang out and debrief the day, and we don't want to. I mean,
social battery's low.
Yeah. And
we were hungry after walking 6 miles.
Yeah.
So we got done with our salads. Nobody had sat down next to us, and I was like, Jim,
let's eat these salads.
He's like, well, I'm so hungry. I was like, I am too. Let's eat these salads. And so we ate for 4. And we moved to the middle of the table and spread our arms out wide. And it was all Jim's idea.
No.
He was pulling the pastor into
Jim has an effect on people.
I'm going to call the restaurant tonight and report you guys. That's fun.
And so it was
I thought you were going to say then people showed up and were like,
where's
my salad?
It was like,
we ordered these.
We're like hiding the extra silverware
croutons in your pocket.
Did you get 2 entrees as well?
No, unfortunately.
We didn't.
Unfortunately,
but we took the trays that we emptied, the dishes that we emptied, and we shoved them under the fresh ones. So that
I don't know.
This is good.
Got it.
Tell you what, we had a lot of barbecue on that trip.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of barbecue.
Yeah, a lot of barbecue.
And it was good. It was good.
Quality barbecue.
Yeah. Jim still likes Old Slow barbecue the best.
Yeah.
Nice.
Old Slow's the best. I have Old Slow.
Yeah.
I don't know who he's making fun of.
Could be any of us.
I feel really bad for making fun of Luke's skin tone.
Yeah,
I would like to
we need to come
apologize.
back around to that.
It's not his skin tone. It's how much sunscreen he puts on.
He ran like 50 miles the other day.
That is the fun of the joke, is that Luke would absolutely dominate me at basic
he would
training.
dominate me as well.
I had to find something to make fun of.
Here's how we're going to end.
Nice. Thank you.
Luke is preaching this weekend on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
We're excited for that.
I'm excited.
And good job, Luke. Okay.
Thanks,
Jim.
That's how we're going to end.
Jim, thanks for coming in.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your service, and thanks for all the things that you've navigated. And what I love about Jim's been a part of our church since the beginning, pretty much. Did you come the first week too?
Second week.
So why didn't you come the first week? What happened?
I didn't know you existed.
Well, whose fault is that, Jim?
But Jim's been around for a long time here at SLO City, and just to know his story. I actually think did you do your story on that podcast?
He did a video.
No, I did a video long time ago.
But
during COVID,
But Jim's story is one of it's a crazy ride, and it's a story of God's faithfulness, God's love and mercy, and Jim continuing just to lean into that love and mercy and trying to receive it. And so it's been really cool to get to know Jim and Tammy and their family, and yeah, for me, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of that, because that was not a light thing, and not a. I do not take that for granted. Mm-hmm. So we joke a lot and laugh around here, but it's not a light thing what you've endured, and to get a firsthand seat of like so many stories of so many men and women. I met a woman who shared her experience with me as being a female in the Navy, and it was hard. Yeah. It was hard to hear. It was like just to hear her story and what she had to endure, and kind of had a cool moment with her as well. I forget her name, Lucy but Lisa something. But man, it's just hearing so many different stories and and there's so many different circumstances that people walk through, and so Memorial Day weekend, it's time to remember that stuff, and I appreciate you, Jim.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you coming. I really, really do.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing. Jordan?
Take it away, Luke.
Take it away.
Are we starting again?
Yeah.
Welcome to SLO City.
Round 2. No, thanks for joining us, Jim, and for sharing openly about your experiences. And
appreciate it.
Really cool.
Thanks for having me.
To hear. So, all right, we'll talk with you soon. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.